Settled in? I'll call the meeting to order of the Municipal Planning Commission for the 27th of March. What we'll do is we will go through agenda additions and approval. Is there anything from staff? Anything from the board? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion. Thank you.
I'll move the agenda as presented.
Questions, concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Minute approval from February 28th that was distributed shortly before this meeting. Mr. Gender, did you get a chance to read those? To note any errors or omissions? Okay.
Someone catch me on it.
Awesome. Okay. So you'll move those forward? Yes. Okay. Seeing any questions, concerns? Seeing none? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. No business arising from said minutes, so we'll do introductions, and I'm going to start with Michelle Hoover.
Legislative services.
Ernie Gender, board member. Ernie Gender, board member. Good afternoon.
Larry Clark, board member.
Dave Grover.
Justin Stevens, good afternoon.
Les Stulberg, good afternoon.
James Nyberg, MPC Chair.
Craig Teal, Director of Planning and Development.
Andrew Grishik, Director of Municipal Services.
Rich Fitzgerald, Development Officer.
And then we'll just go to the back there. And there you go. There we go. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so if I can get the look from everybody, the nod will go to subdivision file 7.1 because we are have a few people in the gallery, so we're good. Okay, so we're going to go to 7.1, page 18 of your package, gentlemen. And who's taking this one? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe we'll just go right to the drawing with the subdivision. Okay, so this subdivision is basically splitting an existing 16-acre lot, more or less. That's what you're seeing in the orange highlight, that kind of flag shape, into a remainder parcel and a new 5.2 hectare parcel, sorry, which is the purple. The proposal is to split the large panhandle into two smaller panhandles, so dividing it between the two parcels, or right now it would be a shared driveway. It could eventually be two separate driveways with a shared approach out onto the Township Road 39-4. The application does meet the LUB and the Municipal Development Plan policies, so we don't have any concerns from that perspective. What some of the unique aspects about this involve reserve land. Originally, when the 16 acres was created, reserves were deferred. It was the first parcel out. And now with the splitting of that, again, municipal reserve dedication does apply. And we're proposing to that the commission require payment of what's called the deferred reserve caveat. That's 10% of the original 16 acres that was created initially. The access itself does require the panhandle an easement down the entire length for that shared driveway, so the two parties have equal access and equal ownership of it. And if that changes into just a shared access for the approach, it'll also cover that shared access as well. The conditions you can see on Rural Development Fund, I do want to touch on that. Back in 1978, when the 16-acre parcel was created, we didn't have the Rural Development Fund contribution that we have today. So staff in interpreting it are looking at the creation of the new 5-acre parcel as being the one that would be subject to that. So this, only the amount that's over the 5 acres, the 0.24, would be subject to that $1,000 an acre charge. The conditions, if we can jump to that particular page. We'll just quickly run through those. Relatively standard, having a surveyor create a drawing is condition number 1, so really on page 22 of the PDF. Number 2, settling out the taxes. Number 3 is the one dealing with the reserve dedication. And we are unfortunately still using the $1,250 per acre. That's the agreed amount between administration or subdivision authority and the applicant. And when you calculate that against the 10% of the 16 acres, the 1.64 acres, it works out to around just over $2,000 municipal reserve dedication contribution. Condition number 4 deals with the easement agreement to allow for for a gas line that I mentioned earlier that cuts across the remainder parcel around the 16-acre parcel. That the new 5.24 may have to access the same line as the existing house, or it may be a new line. So we're looking to some sort of easement agreement where the gas go up to cover that. And then number 5 is the one that deals with the provision of joint access and sharing of that driveway and approach onto the township road. With that, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure the applicant is with us. You may or may not wish to make comments, and be happy to field any questions.
So I have one question of sewer. Did you make a note of it? I'm just...
Yeah, so not so much. It was indicated in the application. So it's a field for the existing house, if we can go back to that. And for the new house, it would be limited to either a field or a holding tank with the effluent trucked out to a treatment facility or a lagoon.
Okay, no, fair enough. Mr. Clark.
Just with distances, that distance across I would say the north part of this, where we have the 300 feet going lengthwise, there's adequate distance for access, and it will always have to stay with that one property.
So I'm assuming we're talking about agricultural access, the ability to kind of come up and go over and get over.
It still is an active subdivision, so.
It is, yeah. So right now, and again, the applicant can answer that, right? The person that owns the remainder parcel, the quarter, is a farmer who's using it. But unfortunately, we do have to approach these as if we have two parties that no longer see eye to eye. So I would estimate that that's probably only about sorry, I don't have an exact dimension. We'd have to work out something. It's probably at least 50 to 60 feet by eyeballing it. Is it 75? Okay.
Okay, no, that was just a concern, is could equipment get through there? And
Okay, that answers your question.
yeah, thank you.
I'll move that we approve this with the conditions laid out.
You're good with that, Cody? Everything makes sense? Okay. Any questions or concerns? I'm seeing none. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to 7.4, page 72, since we have folks in the gallery. So page 72, 7.4. You're taking this one as well?
I am, Mr. Chair. So the applicant, John, is in the room with us as well. So we'll jump down to this sketch again on this one, Andrew. So this is the creation of a farmstead removal from a subdivision that's already been subdivided. And you can see the previous created parcel. It's kind of in the middle upper right there with a long driveway that's protected by a utility right-of-way access easement back out to Highway 56. So this proposed application is to create a parcel just a little under 10 acres. Whoops, what's going?
The screens are being cranky. It's technical.
Okay, we're back. 10-acre parcel around the existing paddocks and the yard, tree belt, shelter belt, and wetland features right off Highway 56. The application meets the MDP requirements. As it is a second parcel out of subdivision or previously subdivided quarter section, again, municipal reserve dedication does come into play for 10% of the 9.4 acre parcel. Other unique, interesting aspects of this application is the relationship to Highway 56. So in the previous subdivision, Alberta Transportation required a dedication of a service road by caveat. It's kind of like our own road acquisition agreement. It basically means that along Highway 56, at some future date, if they decide that they need to physically put in a service road to deal with access management, they'd be able to do that. But in the meantime, it sits on title and the land remains owned by the private landowner. The department thinks the existing agreement may stretch far enough down to capture the existing access into the 9.4 acre parcel. But they've asked for some, that to be confirmed. And when we double checked our own measurements, we think, yeah, it'll just clear from the access to the existing parcel. So that's a long driveway at the top. And it just makes it past the south side of the existing access that you can see in the air photo for the 9.4 acre parcel. Nonetheless, we've suggested adding a condition there to do that confirmation with the department to make sure. Just to remind council or MPC, when we're this close to the highway, AT's requirement or blessing is needed for us to approve a subdivision. So the other aspect that comes into play here is the development fund, and only to mention that it does meet the requirements of not requiring a contribution. That's what we've stated in the application or the report. In terms of water and wastewater services, it does have a open discharge, so that'll be, I believe, captured within the. Or sorry, my mistake, has a private well and a septic field, so we don't have the big rings for the open discharge, so that falls well within the 9.4 acre parcel. We do have gas lines that are cutting across the quarter section and through the proposed parcel, and we don't see anything on title for the gas co-ops to be covered, so we're suggesting a condition to that effect as well. And if we just jump down to the conditions, then Andrew will quickly run through those. My mistake. I did miscalculate the rural development fund. So when we've done the 9.4 acre parcel, we're looking at the very lower southwest corner of the. It kind of could go either way. That could be part of the paddock to go with the acre, the farmstead, or it could be part of the agricultural field. So if we take that out, that would be 7.9 acres would be needed for the farmstead itself, and that leaves 1.5 acres that will be subject to the Rural Development Fund contribution, which is an amount of $1,500. And now on to the conditions, please. So the first two are the standards. The third, dealing with municipal reserve dedication, so 10% of the 9.4, just a shave under a 1 acre parcel dedication at that $1,250 value, so around $1,175 is the amount that we'd be recommending. Number 4 deals with a service road by caveat, just to confirm that Alberta Transportation is satisfied and it meets provisions. That still says to the satisfaction of the county, because in all cases we have to kind of be in control of all the conditions, even though realistically it's Alberta Transportation that we're trying to satisfy on that one. Similarly for the condition dealing with the access easement and the utility right of way for the gas line, if the gas company they don't get to write a blank check and demand whatever they want, that is still subject to some scrutiny from us before, in terms of being in control of that condition and whether or not the application is given the green light to go on to land titles. We can scroll down a little further. I'm not sure if we have any further. That's it for the conditions and the rest of the notes. So I'll be happy to field any questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay. From the board, any questions, concerns? Mr. Gender.
Pass with the conditions, please.
Okay. And Brian, you had any questions, concerns? Okay, that's clear then. All those in favor? That's good. There you go. Pretty simple. Okay, we are going to go back up then from 7.4, if it pleases everybody. We'll go to development permit 6.1, page 3 of your package, and we'll go back to the start. Who says you can't go back? And Rich?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The purpose of this application is to apply for land reclamation for a previously used gravel pit. So Andrew, if I could get you to go to page 15. It's a discretionary use application. So this application, as you can see in the site plan, it's just that small portion that you see on the very east side of that property, where it kind of goes across the quarter section line into the second quarter. This is a situation where a fence was built in the wrong place and a little bit of an encroachment into the neighboring lands. So there will be no more gravel operations on this property. This application is simply looking at reclaiming that 1.9 acre portion of the property. And the landowner, it is two separate landowners between the quarter section on the west and the east, and the landowner has signed off on this application. So land reclamation means returning a disturbed site to ability equivalent to that of the pre-disturbed land capability. The establishment of ecosystems that can sustain cropland, pasture land, wildlife habitat, or an ecosystem similar to what existed prior to disturbance. The applicant is proposing to return the land back to its original state, which was grazeland. They are proposing to work Monday to Friday with site activities that involve heavy equipment that occur 10 hours per day approximately. Reasonable efforts will be undertaken to prevent mud tracking. Existing fences will secure the disturbed lands. Materials not considered natural will be removed and properly disposed of. Site assessments, there were no pre-disturbed records of soil and vegetation assessment prior to the disturbance of the land. But judging by the surrounding land, it's not hard to see that it was, grazeland originally. And they are planning to use Range Road 17-3 as the access route, the same as what the gravel pit operation had used. So, the reclamation strategy just goes through how they plan to do that. And like I say, this is going to be a fairly minor project as it is 1.9 acres. They did apply to have it a 5-year permit for this because they're not sure when they're going to get the equipment in. They would like to do it as they start to reclaim the property on the west side as well. So that's what we're applying for, or what we're recommending here is that they have a 5-year time limit to get this project undertaken. So the alternatives, of course, as always, we can approve the application based on the conditions put forward by administration, or approve the application based on revised conditions, or postpone a decision on the application to receive further information, or deny the application. And the attached development permit just goes through and just standard conditions, but I do want to make one note. The condition of the road use agreement, I have to make a change there where I refer to a policy that's no longer in place. So just want to make a note that we will remove that out of there, but just the standard conditions, project time, hours of operation, not disturb, so on and so forth.
So maybe this question's already been asked, but have the development permit for this one will be doubled because of, did they start the project? This is a little odd one because are they actually working there now?
Yes, we did. Yeah. So this application is kind of in conjunction with the application for the gravel operation on the west side. But because this part is no longer part of the gravel operation and won't be in the future, we decided to do it in two separate permits. But they were charged double the fee.
So is there a cap levy that has to be paid on there? Is there any product going to be leaving this?
That is all part of the development permit that they applied for the west portion of the section.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. So, there's a small slip there, so it doesn't matter. Go ahead, Mr. Stevens.
I suspect with reclamation, there's not much in the way of materials leaving.
I don't know if there were some piles or something. I don't know.
Maybe some refuse or.
Actually, Mr. Chair, if I can, that's actually how we came up on the crushing activity. They were cleaning up the refuse and they forgot that they didn't have approval. So right in the middle of the screen, you can see the A with the 16,300 cubic meters. That is the gravel that's waiting to be moved off site. So that will be subject to the cap levy.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so there is something there. And in the absence, I would ask someone to make a motion to move this forward then. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none? Call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Now, back to 7.2, page 40 of our package. Who's taking it?
It'll be me again, Mr. Chair. So this application is a little bit unique, definitely in terms of parcel configuration. So this is, again, a farmstead removal and first parcel out. So the awkward shape of the parcel does capture their well and their septic system. There's no open discharge involved in this. driveway and shelter belts, and the applicant was being very cautious, trying to stay as minimal necessary for the farmstead, which is how we arrive at the interesting jogs and turns in some cases. In the interesting aspects of this application are the gas line, which is a bit of a theme for all three of our 4 applications. We can see the gas lines in our GIS coming in to serve the house across the quarter section, but there doesn't seem to be on title anything for the gas co-op to protect their ability to reach the future customers. So we're asking condition be attached to get that cleaned up. The access to the existing access to the proposed farmstead removal has a couple issues, but administration is comfortable with the site distances that are available at the existing location. There's really no greater alternative available. So if you look to the north, unfortunately it's flat, but it does get into a little bit of curved land, and then it's hard to see a truck at the 140 to 150 meter distance. If you look to the south, you get into the same kind of scenario. So we don't have that ideal full 150, 160 meters that we'd like to usually see, but administration is comfortable with that in this particular case, given the low traffic volumes. There's a little bit of brushing in the road allowance to the south that would help clear up some of those site distances. And the other condition that's not attached at this stage, so for rural development fund, this is the one that they've kept under and would be eligible for a 0 contribution. Just gotta double check that. There is no municipal reserve contribution. And the only issue I could see going back to, which we probably didn't pick up, we didn't pick up at the time of doing the report, is how, again, if it's 2 parties that don't get along in the future, that upper left 10 to 15 acre crop area may not have any physical access between the driveway and the wetland on the other side of the farmstead. So it may be prudent to look at an easement for the benefit of the remainder property to be able to make sure equipment can move across the driveway, the panhandle component of the farmstead, without having to go back out to the road allowance and back up to the north and come in through another access point. With that, maybe we'll just quickly run through the conditions. They're relatively standard again. Of course, I always forget one. So this one, we also do need the road widening acquisition along the western length for 5 meters. Although that said, going back to the sketch, if we can jump back to the sketch for a second, we probably do have to look at the wording on that. Although on the west side of that curve, we're still within the same quarter section, we could look at road widening there as well, but we're into a wetland. So it may not work out quite as ideal to be able to require a road acquisition agreement on that kind of inside of the curve that you can see showing on the drawing. But happy to go to questions. And
You're good. Okay.
My question was on road dedications. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering if we shouldn't ask for 10 meters on that short crease to build the road properly around that corner, because we would ask it on the other side. This is an odd one, very odd, but I mean, would it be prudent for us to get a 10-meter buffer on the east side of on the west side of this property, east side of the road? Is that a possibility, or where does that happen? It doesn't need to be along the whole distance, but it needs to be marked at, down and just around the curve, so that if we ever did decide to build that road, we don't have to build into the slough we're building into. Just a question to the administration and in through to the board. What is your thoughts on that?
first, from the administration perspective, Mr. Chair, I think there's a couple little spots you can see some wetlands that it doesn't matter. They're going to be the awkward pieces to deal with. I don't have our policy committed to exact memory, but we do try to split that. That said, we're well within our limits on requiring road widening that is unique to a unique circumstance. So I think that is a possibility.
So it's a possibility from it.
The other aspect I'll point out is, given that we're using a road use agreement acquisition as opposed to the former road plan, even if we take the full 10 meters, there's still a chance for a future engineer, when they're doing that design of that road, to see whether or not they actually have to use the full 10 and take it. Cutting out. Is that? Me or the mic?
Might be a little bit of quietness.
What's this?
Just the mic.
Oh, okay. Any thoughts from the board? What are you thinking on this? Is that something you don't want to do, or what are we thinking about that? We always have a problem when we ever go to build a road that we have enough space. This would dedicate it to us and not have an issue. I would hate to have to go down the road and literally, no pun intended, buy more.
The way our road dedication is currently structured, it seems like a decent middle ground, because until we go to widen it, the landowner still has full rights. They can utilize it how they want. And what Craig just explained about future engineers wouldn't necessarily need to use it all. So, I mean, it's an interesting middle ground where it makes sure that we're covered in the future without grabbing land that we don't need currently. So.
What's everybody else think? Mr. Clark?
I do agree to that point, but still, the shapes of some of these subdivisions we're coming in with lately are quite alarming. I think,
I would hate to fence that.
I certainly would hate to fence it too. Try to say where your property boundaries are.
So can I ask the question, and maybe you don't know, does it cost you more to survey that? Nothing to do with this particular one, but I mean, I would think it would be fairly.
Probably marginally. I mean,
Okay.
the biggest issue is you have to pay for the crew to get out there. And right away, that's like more than half your cost. And the other half of your cost is going to be CAD time when you get back to the shop.
I guess maybe they're just like different designs.
But you can see, but Ariel is following the cultivated land.
Yeah.
So it's not taking any cultivated land out. It's just sticking to where they couldn't farm, sort of thing.
I mean, I don't have.
Kinda makes
It's
sense.
just interesting.
You can see why they'd want to leave that little jet north there for a northwest wind, I think. Maybe.
Okay, so the question in front of us is, do we want to take a 10 meter? Now, would we take that 10 meter all the way along the whole west side of the boundary, or would we just take the 10 meters around the curve? It would be simplest just to take 10 meters all the way along, noting that we may not utilize it all. And no cost to them, they still get to use it till we use it. Is that
I would agree. And just for clarity, we're talking about the east side of the existing road allowance.
east side, west side of the property that we're dealing with? Yeah. Do I have?
No, I agree with that.
Okay, so we can change that condition?
I can certainly do that, yes.
Okay, so we have an amended condition for this, everything else all being the same. Can I get a motion to move this? Mr.
I think Craig had something first.
You're right. I did verbally indicate, we don't have a condition specific for that idea of crossing the panhandle if someone,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve this with the amended condition for the road dedication, as well as the amended condition for the road easement for access to the northwest.
Can we hold that for just 2 seconds? Just park that. So would it not be easier just to have them put an approach to the north side of this? I mean, the cost wise, would it not be easier? Couple grand versus having an easement on, I don't know.
The county puts the approach in.
For an agricultural approach, it's not the $2,000.
What is it?
We're charging $500. Yeah.
Really, I mean, I would put the condition in and have the county put it in myself. That's what I would say. Go ahead, Mr. Stolberg, I'll take you.
Except if you have to fold all your equipment out just to go out and back in again, like your headers and your.
Either way, they're gonna have to, aren't they?
If you're just driving over the driveway, you wouldn't.
Oh, I see.
I would accept as a friendly amendment an either or on the condition, easement or approach, because both cover what we want to accomplish, and it puts the ball in the applicant's court.
I can word something to that effect.
Okay, so we have an amended, it's amended to either aviate for access or an approach built with, for agricultural approach, okay? Everybody's clear on what we're doing there? Try and keep up, Ernie.
I'm trying. But then, okay, if we put an approach off to the north, he would still have to cross his driveway. So
You don't have to cross his driveway. You would, like Mr. Stolberg said, you'd have to drive out
Drive out the south
and go
approach.
down the road and get up to that small piece at the top.
okay, so
I don't know that driveway very well, if you would even be able to drive over it anyways. I kind of suspect it's fairly high, actually. I've been out there. I don't think you're driving over the roadway anyways.
Not by the looks of it.
No. I have a strong suspect that they're driving off the road and in.
I feel comfortable with my condition because it puts, the landowner is the most in the know, and he can choose his own adventure as long as it meets the conditions that we want to accomplish.
So are you okay? Does that make sense to you?
he's got two approaches, no problem.
He have the option of either using his current driveway, or if he doesn't feel comfortable with that, he could have the town or the county build one to the north for 500 bucks.
Then he's got one to the south also. So he's got lots of options.
Yeah. Okay. That's clear. Anything else? Any other questions, concerns? Now we have a motion on the table that we approve this with that one condition that's a little bit of a hybrid between either an approach or a caveat, whichever one. And then, yeah.
Road widening dedication.
Road widening dedication. So we're clear on that? So we're crystal clear. I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. 7.3, and we're page 56. Who's taking this one?
Maybe, Mr. Chair, and maybe a bit of a contrast from our last one. This one has an incredibly regular shape.
There you go. They heard you, Larry.
But, you know, it's same theme though. This landowner, in discussion with them, they are prepared to walk away from an open discharge system and in favor of leaving more land in agricultural use than taking in as part of their acreage or farmstead removal here. Which is, we did actually go back and talk to the applicant about that, and they realized that that's one of the trade-offs. So this particular 7.97 acre parcel is around the existing house and the shelter built area. It too has the gas line issues of, we see the gas lines coming across the property, across the quarter section to service the acreage area, the proposed acreage area, but there, again, there's nothing on title for the gas co-op. Similarly, we also have an issue with TELUS on this one that indicates that they too need an access easement for some of their existing facilities, although on the graphic that they prepared, I'm not sure which facilities, if it's the ones that are paralleling Township Road 37.2, or they seem to have another line on their drawing that goes to the middle of one of the wetlands for some reason, which doesn't seem to be like a telephone service to me, but nonetheless, that can be sorted out when the applicant follows up on the condition. So the conditions for this one are relatively straightforward. There are no reserves, given that it is a first parcel out of unsubdivided subdivision. The applicant has gone to efforts to avoid taking more land out so they don't face a rural development fund contribution. And the rest of the conditions are fairly standard, with the exception of that easement for TELUS and the easement for the gas service. And again, I forgot the road dedication across the north on 37-2. 5 meters should suffice in this case, and that we don't have a big curve, and they only control one side of the road anyway. And that is also included as condition number 3 in the recommendation.
Okay, Mr. Grover?
Move it. We've already rebuilt this road since I sat here in council. We've already taken the land that we need along the front of it. It's nice, square, just includes its trees. There's really nothing to say about it.
My mistake, Mr. Chair. I reckon it's 19-2 that we'd be looking for the dedication, not 37-2.
Fair enough. Okay. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Excellent. Okay, well done. 8.1, Develop Officers Report, page 98.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So total number of development permits processed year to date for 2024 is 18. These numbers are slightly ahead of last year's number, which saw 15 development permits processed as of the end of March 2023. As has been the trend in the past, residential type developments are the majority of the development permits processed, with industrial coming up second due to most likely to the amount of gravel pit permits being applied for recently. Planning staff are also working on multiple enforcement files, working towards bringing those properties into compliance with the assistance of bylaw officer Potter. Enforcement files continue to be a time and resource consuming issue for planning staff. And then you can scroll down and it just gives the chart difference between 2023 and 2024. We will be working towards bringing you the difference or how the estimated values of development stand up against the assessed value of the development. Hopefully, we'll be bringing that forward probably at the May.
Any questions or concerns for either Craig or Rich? Mr. Clark?
I'll move the report.
Okay. Questions, concerns, all those in favor? And you guys got off easy. Okay, new business, we got none. Old business, we've dealt with. You said we had a small in camera? No. Oh, okay. Then all we have is Wednesday, April 24th. Everybody's good for that? Then I'll have Mr. Gender.
Ready here, please.
All those in favor? There you go. Thank you.